Welcome to the SMB Community Podcast with hosts Amy Babinchek, James Kernan, and Carl Polachek. Produced by Kernan Consulting and for the international MSP community. We are dedicated to making every IT professional a successful IT professional. The SMB Community Podcast is brought to you by Kernan Consulting, your mergers and acquisitions experts. Since 2006, we've been through over 30 transactions, and just this past year, we've been involved in over 6. So if you're interested in either buying, selling, or valuation information, please reach out. I'd love to talk with you. There's a ton of activity going on, and you can be a part of it. Reach out for more information at kernanconsulting.com. Hey everybody, welcome back to the SMB Community Podcast. This is James Kernan with Kernan Consulting, here with my good friend, Ms. Amy Babinchek. Hey, Amy.
Hey, James.
Happy Monday. How are things?
Things are good. We finally finished working on our rental property, and it's going to hit the market Wednesday. So looking forward to getting that thing sold and getting that renovation monkey off our back around here. It's a lot of work.
And I've got some exciting news, too, that the Kernan household has our Christmas tree up. So I know I know it's November, but I think just with the short time frame in between Thanksgiving and Christmas, we're kind of trying to get ahead of things. So anyway, just trying to stretch out the holidays.
Yeah, that's a uniquely U.S. problem. In most other countries, they do start putting up the Christmas stuff at the end of October.
Yeah.
But we're a big Halloween country, and then we've got our Thanksgiving, which is an important national celebration. So I hate to squish on those holidays, but it's also very tempting to take advantage of this extremely mild fall that we're having and get those outdoor decorations up. So trying to hit the right balance on that. It's not Christmas tree for me, though.
Well, hey, we got a ton of stuff to talk about. I'm going to dig into a few quick updates before we dive into our question of the week, which is a really good one. Amy and I are going to talk about how do you become a real MSSP? Okay, how do you become a real MSSP? But before that, a lot of things going on here in November. The election, thank goodness that's over. But hopefully no more postcards in the mailbox and text messages filling up your telephone. But election is over. Now we kind of move on and have the dust settle. It did look like the markets moved a little bit right after that, but then things have just kind of stabilized. So now it's kind of back to the back and forth division. So I'm going to have to ignore that and focus on the holiday.
I think last time we talked about how lonely we were going to feel after, seeing our email volume and our phone call volume and our text volume just plummet. And it has, so that's a good thing. It's bad to be an independent in a swing state. Let me just say that.
Election is over. IT Nation actually just happened as well. That's one of the biggest events of the year. You had mentioned that there was a notable announcement that came out. What was that?
I thought this was important because, we have been critical of these big conferences for not really having any significant news, just throwing a big party. But I actually saw a news item come out, and this is a really cool one, James. It totally speaks to you and I because they announced a funding program by Great America that is targeted to small MSPs looking to buy other small MSPs. And I think this is such an awesome development. So the total investment amount that they're going to do is $250K, which is definitely small, up to $2.5 million as their upper end. So small end of the market, MSPs, and we've discussed many times on this show about, it's a good opportunity and good way to grow your business and do a slightly larger one. And so now we've got some financing alternatives, which I think It might even be a first.
Yeah, I've not seen. Well, first of all, Great America. Everybody thinks of Great America Leasing. They a strong finance partner in the channel, good company. So I'm excited to see they want to get involved in the M&A gang. But I've never seen anything that low, down to 250. That's that's interesting. So I'm excited about that because I think it will continue to help fuel a lot of the M&A activity that's being unreported right now. A lot of the small deals.
Yeah, yep, maybe with Great America backing it, now we can get some of that reported. Because as you and I know, there's a lot of activity in this end of the market.
Yep, exactly. And other big news this month, CompTIA sold. So it looked like, CompTIA is gonna be split into 2 parts. One is their for-profit, which is all their, the training, and then their nonprofit arm as well. So that was, interesting news. Looked like, they're acquired by ConnectWise. Um,
Sort
no,
of.
actually, it was it Thoma Bravo and HIG Capital is
Yeah, so it's almost like they were acquired by both Kaseya and ConnectWise. At least they are by their financing arms. So that's what makes it really notable. And um, so now all the certification pieces, that's the big money generator for CompTIA, right? You go and you take a certification, and enterprise companies really do value those certifications highly. So it makes 100 plus million a year in revenue. So it's a good buy for them. They didn't want the nonprofit, which just spent that money. So the nonprofit is spun off into its own entity, and it will not be called CompTIA. So we don't know what it's going to be called yet. And I think we also aren't sure what its mission is going to be. The previous CompTIA with its certification programs, their mission was to expand the tech workforce. Nothing says this new nonprofit has to have that same mission. So I guess we'll wait and see what the board decides its name is and what its mission is going to be. Still haven't heard.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what kind of changes take place, but, many of you out there are familiar with CompTIA and love the conferences and the education that comes from that, so we'll have to kinda wait and see, but we'll keep you posted as, this further develops, and then let's dive over to the question of the week that came in. I thought this was an interesting topic because of the increased regulation, compliance. There's more and more requirements today on the MSP, and we need to take things more seriously. But I think along with all of the requirements and the risk, there's also a big opportunity if you do things right. But how would you? So the question is, are you a real MSSP? What does it really take to become a credible MSSP? So, it's not like one training class or a certification and you're done. I think it's a series of things. But how would you answer that, Amy? Because that's a interesting question.
It is. I wonder if the question is really about where the line is between an MSP and an MSSP. If
Mhm.
it's a very blurry line right now. To me, an MSSP needs to be deeply technical, probably only technical, and they need to be highly specialized in security. So maybe in that was a very broad term, the word security. So let me define it a little more. Um, I see MSSPs working in mainly larger enterprises where they have separate security and compliance departments, where they are actively proactive hunting, protecting that network, and then also addressing any um, infiltrations and breaches that might occur. Right, so I see the MSSP as a very focused business, whereas as MSPs, security is flowing into our businesses whether we want it or not, right? You must do security, but MSPs have to be security generalists. They also have to be compliance generalists, which is a separate deal from security. But we have to understand all of it, and we have to be able to sort of broadly manage all of it. And there's a lot of new tools that are targeted at the MSP to help us do that.
Right.
And so finding that line between what are you going to do? Are you going to be a specialist that does the highly specialized security work, or are you going to be a generalist in the MSP world, which honestly is going to be spending most of its time in security and compliance in the today and ongoing into the future too.
Point. I can see that. To simplify it, no longer can you be a generalist. You really need to be that specialist in cybersecurity, and then breaking it down from there, it's your people, your process, and your tools. Your people need to be trained and know what they're talking about, know what they're doing. You've got to have SOPs in place, really a plan, right? A plan in place, and have the right processes all documented and followed by your team of best practices. And then you've got to be using the right tools as well. So there's a lot to that. So I will say this one thing again. AB, I liked how you said that the line is very blurry between MSP and MSSP, and I agree. But there's a big opportunity because I think it'll drive more and more MSPs out of that security space or out of the business if they don't take this seriously. But if you do and you invest in your team and your people and your tools, I see this being a big opportunity where you have an opportunity to charge more and you'll get more sophisticated clients. But, there's more and more regulation that's going to require us, and we're taking more and more risk. So I think there's more and more of an opportunity there. So there's a lot to that. So there's a couple other things I wanted to just highlight, I guess, real quick. You had just shared with me the Department of Labor, the ruling about overtime. Why don't you elaborate on that? Because I think everybody needs to hear this. I missed that in the news.
Yeah, so a few months ago, the Department of Labor the increased the floor of wages for salaried employees that are not eligible for overtime. And they've done it. They used to do it on an annual basis, right? It just sort of crept up this floor, right? So if you're making less than, whatever the number was, then you were salaried, but you were still going to be eligible for overtime because it was felt that, at that level of wage, you're really not in that managerial decision-making authority type position. You're just being paid on a salary basis. So they wanted to capture that. And um, and then they sort of stopped doing it on an annual basis. Then it required these catch-ups, and we had one a few years ago, which brought it up to 42,000 some odd number, as the floor, below which you would still have to pay a salary employee overtime. And then this year or I think it was 2025, it was gonna go up to, it's like 50, 55, 56, something like that. A big jump up, because they hadn't done it in, I think, 5 or 6 years. And that also had a provision in there that said, we're gonna go back to the annual thing because these big jumps are really uncomfortable for businesses. Well, federal judge just struck the whole thing down, and set it back to the $35,000 level, which is about almost 20 years old now. So now, you don't have to pay overtime unless your employees are making less than $35,000.
Interesting. That's interesting to see how that plays out. I know there's more and more, there's more and more chatter, at least inside my mastermind communities and at conferences that I'm attending, about overtime. And, are you exempt or non-exempt? And, what are the ways around this? So it's kind of interesting to see that ruling that they changed it and moved that number down. I would have guessed the number would be moved up, right?
Yes, they struck it down for some reason. So I imagine Department of Labor will come back at it because, the reason is to keep unscrupulous employers from saying, avoiding overtime and abusing employees by just giving them that salary position pay structure without, what we think of as a managerial, salary position. The tech community has always been a target for this too, right? Because we unfortunately have a history of, you know, having our employees work long hours, overnight and weekends and on call and all of this. And so, so we've been a target in our industry for unscrupulous practices really since the beginning. But anyway, I think that has changed in our industry a lot. There's a lot more understanding of work-life balance. Honestly, the types of work that we do these days, there aren't as many server migrations and business disruptions are much less frequent. So there isn't as much need to work evenings and at weekends as there used to be either. So I think in our industry, we can manage this without a problem.
And there was one other noteworthy thing I'll just throw out there. I saw this, and this headline caught my eye. It's regarding Supermicro. So many of you know Supermicro, one of the big compute platforms out there that's on the OEM side, the white box side, that you can highly customize that are going head to head with, Dell and HP and so forth. But they're on the verge of getting kicked off the Nasdaq since I think March of this year, when their stock was peaking. Their stock has gone down 85%.
Oh,
So
wow.
they failed to do some quarterly reports, and then it looked like their big, big time auditing company uh, eh, just left them. So they're going to have to find someone else. So when that happens, that's not good. So keep your eye on Supermicro if you're a Supermicro fan. It looks like they've got some negative things going on there you pay close attention to.
They've got some serious internal issues. I did hear about their accounting firm leaving them and
Yeah.
basically saying that we have no confidence that the numbers that they're putting out there are anywhere close to real. We think their business practices are unscrupulous and we're out of here.
Yeah.
uh, yeah, that's a big red flag. So no, maybe they'll get acquired. Who knows?
Have a target for sure. So that is it for noteworthy things in the channel. So if anybody has any questions of the week, any comments, anything Amy and I have talked about, or questions, we'd love to hear from you. So reach out to us either on the smbcommunitypodcast.com website, or just email me directly at james@kernanconsulting.com. We'd love to hear from you. So thanks for listening, everybody. We will catch up with you all next time. Take care.